Hey everybody, welcome to video AMA number 2. I've got a couple friends with me this time. I got ManBear, Faultline, and OrdinanceB. We're just going to be hanging out talking about some questions that you guys submitted through the Google form. And if anyone is just like hanging out in the waiting room, we'll probably pull them in to chat as well. I don't know how long this is going to be, but hopefully it'll be a little bit more in-depth than last time. We've got like 20 topics to talk about, so yeah, gonna unmute my mic and see
Push
if
the talk working?
yes it is. Alright, so ManBear, why don't you start the first one?
What the fuck's the first one?
I don't know.
Which tab is that?
Alright, he says, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, first one, current use case of the sweet builds. What are you doing with these massive builds?
I mean, to some people they're massive because you're not used to buying this much hardware for not a whole lot of money.
Right.
But on a larger scale of things, I would say they're pretty mid-range. Like even the higher end stuff that, like, you know what, the $800 Threadrunner build is, it's not like super high end. I mean,
It's high end if you're not used to any type of enterprise gear.
right.
And it's just cheaper than buying the similar build for the modern consumer stuff.
You get a lot more for your money. You don't necessarily have to do anything with it. I mean, like, I have a bunch of RAM, and I use that for a RAM disk, for a transcoded directory. You can run a bunch of VMs. You can run a test environment. You can virtualize a router. You can, I mean, really do whatever you want. But the nice thing is, whereas like if you had a standard build where you weren't running like dual Xeons or something, you'd have to buy a box for every single device that you make, or like maybe 2 devices per box because you just run out of compute power. With these, I mean, you can just do everything in one.
Yeah, there's enough cores. You can add enough RAM for cheap.
Yep. You can go to rack mount and do some really fun stuff. A lot of us game on them too. I'm using one for my streaming box. So like it just captures my gameplay from my host computer. I run game servers on it. I like obviously Plex and Sonar and Radar. Yeah, I mean, I try to find any use I can for my servers, to be honest. Just anything I can try to make it work or test something out.
I was going to say, I think a big part of it too is kind of, I guess, multiplying the usage. You kind of talk about that where you'd require a lot of other boxes to do a lot of these different functions with a standard build or a more traditional desktop or workstation. The devices or servers we build are a lot more multifunctional and can do a lot more simultaneously.
I think you really grow into it too, because I didn't have
Your
a whole
habits.
I didn't have a whole lot of use for my server when I first got it, but now it's like I can see myself pushing the limits of it already.
You have the capabilities, so you find a use for it.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you go out looking for like things to do with it, you're gonna find things that you're like, oh, I could do that, and you'll just, I don't know, just try it.
And I think a lot of people think that, oh, these are massive builds and whatnot, and they just think of just pure electricity power, but when they're sitting kind of idle, it's really no different than a normal desktop.
Yeah, I mean, it's between the deep dive I did on 1366 and like my personal rack, I mean, if I have 30 plus hard drives, 2 systems between them, 3 physical processors, I mean, that only takes like 550 watts. at normal usage, and maybe at peak like 650.
Yeah.
That's not that bad. And
No, not for all that stuff.
And to be clear too, that you have a significantly more powerful system than probably the average build as well.
right. So like a dual LFT640 system could be like 120 watts with some hard drives. So that kind of ties into the other question, like Ray's had, which was about power usage, and he says a lot of people are concerned about power usage, but it doesn't seem to be a real problem. What's your average electricity bill? Well, it's hard to pick out like the rest of my electricity habits with my server, but
Yeah.
my entire rack. Oh, that's the other thing. It's my entire rack taking up 550 watts on average, which includes a router, a switch, a monitor, 3 chassis, hard drives. I mean, it's just literally everything that's plugged into my rack. So
All the fans, everything.
yeah, there's a lot of fans.
Probably for the vast majority of people too. Now that we're coming into summer, your AC unit's going to cost you more than your rack is.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing is, it was 90 degrees out the other day. I mean, my server was running
Lucky.
warmer. It was running warmer, but it's not in an air-conditioned room. It's in my garage, and it's fine. I didn't have any temperature alarms or anything.
You don't AC your garage?
Breaking news: major 6.9 earthquake shakes the entire state of Hawaii following the 4th eruption of Big Island's Kilauea volcano. Interesting. I don't know why I got a watch notification for that on my Apple Watch, but that's
To all of our Hawaii Discord users,
RIP. Press F.
we'll press F to pay respects and send us your racks.
Call in if you're still alive.
Let's see what news has to say about it. Wow, I can't even spell fucking Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Hawaii?
Wonder if they even like trust the warning systems anymore because of that fake nuclear attack.
Right.
Incoming missile. Nope, just a volcano.
6.9 earthquake, strongest to hit Hawaii since 1975.
Jesus.
Kilauea volcano has been active since 1983. Erupted and spewed lava into a residential area. Oh, that's good.
Oh.
Need some of that volcano insurance.
Good luck.
My disk temperatures are extremely high. Please advise.
It's a fucking volcano.
All right, what's our next question?
Oh, yeah, I just want to say
Wine
or
about
cheese.
well, just let me finish about the power usage thing. It's
Yeah.
never as much as you think it's going to be. And if
No.
someone says, "Oh, well, you need a 650 watt power supply or whatever," it's just keep in mind that's peak output of the power supply. That doesn't mean that's how much your system's going to use.
No.
Yeah,
The PSU uses whatever it needs to. It's not always putting all that out.
right. And
That's a key point.
the
Very.
other thing is if you're relating Xeon, especially server usage, compared to like a gaming desktop, keep in mind most of us don't have video cards at all, and video cards are freaking power hungry. So that's a huge impact as far as desktop like power usage. So if you're expecting like if you're running dual 1080 Ti's and an i7 is overclocked, yeah, you might want an 800 or 1000 watt power supply. But for us, if you're running dual Xeon, you're not gonna get even close.
And you might not even have a monitor attached to it. I mean,
Right.
a lot of these servers run headless, no keyboard, no mouse, no input devices at all, just power and network cable.
Yep. Wine or cheese? Those are two totally different categories of.
Both? Cheese goes with wine, or just stick with beer.
Cheese has fewer carbs, so probably cheese.
This is true.
Good choice.
When did you switch from a standard media build to a server build? My first Plex server was a Hackintosh that I made probably I would say five, let's see, it's 2018. 5 or 6 years ago. And
Jesus.
yeah, it worked well. It didn't have drives in RAID of any sort. I had all kinds of different drive sizes and stuff. I was just getting really tired of managing it all manually.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even think it was a Plex server at the time. It was like I was using this app called Air Video HD, which is essentially the same thing Plex does, but you had to have their app, and there was no web client for it, so you had to either watch it on the Mac or watch it on your iPhone.
Gross.
That was the one that emulated AirPlay stuff, right?
No, it's still like you still had to port forward and stuff. I honestly don't remember, but like there was no metadata or anything like that, so you just had like raw files basically.
For me,
yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead and finish if you want.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I don't remember how the transition happened for me switching to like dual Xeon builds, but I'm 99% sure that my first dual Xeon build was E5 2670s. No, it wasn't. My first one was dual L56, no, X5670s. And then, yeah, they were water cooled, and it was kind of in a desktop case. It was pretty cool. It worked great, but that was short lived because I don't know, it's too fun to mess around.
Found too much other stuff to buy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think
Faultline.
the key for me was switching from having or serving just myself to start thinking about serving others too. I mean, I had like a lot of people, a lot of different media spread across a lot of different drives, sometimes a lot of different systems. And once you really started getting organized, getting it all, together, getting it in one place, you realize that, oh yeah, hey, these packages are starting to get a lot better. We don't have to just have a home theater PC here and then have it attached to everything. Networks are getting to the point where you can send it out via the internet, via your home network. And instead of having to file share with friends, stuff like Plex really enables you to have what you need, and your friends can enjoy it without having to, resort to crazy torrenting sites and Russian insta downloads with viruses attached and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, you can just quickly share it with people.
I don't know about you guys.
You don't have to go on LimeWire anymore.
I don't know about you guys, but I totally missed like the popcorn time epidemic.
I tried Popcorn Time and it worked great for like 2 days, and then they got shut down. Like I've been but I've been a member of public or private trackers for like a decade or more now.
Well, I had friends in college that were like, "Oh, you got to try this. It's the greatest thing ever." And I was like, "Nah, man. Like it seems pretty sketch. Like I'm good." And I don't know whether it was just like the transition for me going from Air Video HD or whatever I was using before to Plex, but I guess it kind of happened around the same time. And I mean, Plex has changed a lot since then. So have any of you guys used Kodi? Yeah, but
No.
I think most everybody has, right? I used the original Xbox Media Center 1.0
XBMC.
on a original Xbox. Like I still have a chipped Xbox that works with all that stuff. So moving from something like that where it's a client only, you have to have the files stored somewhere with it for access, to something that can play anywhere is key.
Yeah, I was actually using that before Air Video HD because that was the big difference, was that I could stream outside my network with it.
Yeah.
I guess you couldn't you kind of use Kodi as a streamer outside?
Yeah. Oh, it definitely works. That's what all of these Fire Sticks and everything are installed with now, is that Kodi plus streaming plugins.
No. But I mean, couldn't you host things with Kodi? I thought there was a way to do that.
There is. It's
Kind
still
of janky,
not,
right?
Yeah, it's pretty janky.
Okay.
Good word for it.
It's not great. I mean, the best part of Kodi right now is just installing the Plex plugin for it. If you don't have it like locally hosted, basically.
I see.
Yeah.
Or you have to trust those, like I said, those Russian streaming sites where it's
Yeah,
like, hey,
forget
there's
that.
25 sources that may or may not work at any given point.
That's like the huge rage here at work is like jailbroken Fire Sticks, and I just look at these people and they're like, yeah, it's like the best thing ever. I'm like, it's not though. Like,
Right. I went
like,
to a
it's
friend's
alright.
house and we watched the hockey game, and then they wanted to watch something afterwards, and it took them. They're like, oh, look at all this stuff I can watch. They selected a show, they selected the season, and it starts coming up almost like a tracker where it's like, oh, this source has this source has this.
Yep.
Like the first
all, like,
7 of them
repositories.
didn't work,
Right.
and
yeah.
then the last one was like in 240p. Like I
Oh,
was
Jesus.
like, right. I get that you don't want to pay for Netflix, but that's crazy.
Yeah. At that point, just pay for Netflix.
And
Or
you know
find
that
a buddy.
stuff- do you know that stuff is like torrent? It does like torrents in the background. So don't call me when your ISP DMCAs you for all the stuff you're downloading. Like, my relatives are always like, "Can you install a VPN on my Fire Stick?"
Like,
No.
that's yeah. I mean, that was kind of how Popcorn Time worked, right?
That's exactly how it works. It's using a torrent engine. Azurius, when it went to Views, I
Oh,
think
God,
was the
I
one that
remember
really
that.
made it big.
Oh yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, you can start downloading these files and then stream it as you go, and that basically was somebody kicked into Popcorn Time.
Yeah.
Because if you looked in Popcorn Time, you could actually open it up and find the torrent files and find the actual files it was
Right.
downloading.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, we've all kind of had a different journey to get to this point, but we're all kind of at the same point now, and I don't really see us changing. Like back
Oh,
then, like I knew I was like, this isn't the final thing. Like this is like an interim solution until the next best thing, and then
Mhm.
we've been kind of parked for what, like 2 years.
Yeah, it's been
Something
about
like that.
that.
Popcorn Time forever, you mean? That's not a trending hashtag?
Right.
I had an interesting journey. I started with just external hard drives plugged into a PS3
Oh God.
just to watch media, just on my own.
Kill
Then
me.
I got a PS4, did the same thing, except it didn't work as good as the PS3 because
Yeah,
shenanigans.
yeah.
They kind of locked it down a little more. And then I found Plex probably over 2 years ago now. Like, tried it on my laptop. Old laptop didn't work very good, so I got a Lenovo TS140 with an i3-4130. Worked good. Still works good, but didn't share with many people. And then JDM told me to buy all this other shit.
Yeah.
Peer pressure kicked in.
Kind of have
Which
that
w-
effect on people.
Which that's been probably over a year now, I think. And it was just stupid good deals at the time, so I'm like, okay, I'll buy it.
But out of everyone, I don't think you've gone like super crazy.
No. Well, I have 4 different boxes running right now.
Well, yeah. But I mean, how many of them are like, oh, JDM's told me to buy this? It's only been like one that I was like, hey, you should totally buy this, and the other one's
the
like,
dual Xeons, build a DAS. Oh, then you gave me that one motherboard.
yeah, I did
Lot
give
of
you
views.
some stuff.
So 3 of the 4. The fourth is
Hashtag mod abuse.
the fourth is the Lenovo TS140.
Fault, were you here for like the beginning of the Discord?
Yeah, I think on one of your first videos, I was like one of the few commenters in the live
Jeez.
stream. Like, you can literally see me, hey, XYZ, blah, 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 while you're on their first head-mounted
Yeah.
stream.
Oh, interesting.
Because I pretty much, this is about this time last year is when I moved out into the swamp, and you guys were just getting started.
I don't know how all of a sudden I moved you up to mod position, but you had a dog as your icon, so trustworthy. Not that you're not
Automatic trustworthy.
trustworthy. Like you've done great. Like you've done a great job, and you've hung around for a while. So
We trust the dog.
Yeah.
it's definitely the dog.
Being unemployed meant I climbed the karma ranks quickly.
Hey, it happens. Everyone goes through different things.
Exactly. I mean, I invented the Rule 1 trigger, so I mean, it can't be that bad, right? I didn't actually code it, but, you know.
I don't.
You had the thought.
Yeah, thankfully none of us have had to code anything for this. It's been pretty hands off. The bots are just like, I just rip them from other people's servers or their public bots. But
And who hosts them?
I
Do
just
they run on Dual Xeon?
probably not, which is why they're down half the time.
They run on VPSs until they get kicked off for violating terms of service, probably.
Free VPSs.
What bot was it that went down for like a week when they had those fucking hurricanes in Florida or wherever?
I think that was me.
Zodiac reporting to Traycon. Zodiac.
Is that Hawaii?
No.
What was that?
Work phone.
Oh.
Let's see.
I thought somebody was literally calling into you. I was like, that's cool. This AMA just got a whole lot more real. By the way, was that a Hawaii area code?
Are you okay?
Rip.
So the next question is there any way to make sense of the Xeon naming scheme, or do we always need to have a reference chart handy? No, there's not a whole lot of sense to it. There is some sense to it, and the sense is the L series and X series. L is low power, X is the standard.
Extreme!
Yeah, extreme / high power / standard workstations or server CPUs. W is for workstation. That's just for 1366 and before. And then once you hit 1356 and 2011 and 2011-3, you switch to E5 and E7. E5 is the standard one. E5, let's see. E5
Sense an
1600.
infographic coming.
Huh?
I said I sense an infographic coming for this question, timeline wise.
I'm doing this off the top of my head. E5 1600, the one stands for single socket only, so you can actually run them in dual socket boards, but you can only just run one, so you're kind of limited there. And I think they only go up to 6 core, but there might be one exception to that. And then 2600, that means that you can have dual proc, and then 4600 means you can have up to 4, and then I think there's an 8. I'm not really sure, but
I know there's an 8-core board, so I'd assume there's an 8-core processor.
Yeah, I think they're E7s only.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I think there are some E5s that are 4600. And then V1 and V2s, for the most part, I mean, they take the same socket and they're DDR3. I wouldn't say they're necessarily interchangeable, but most boards support both. Some only support V1. If they support V2, then they support V1 as well. So there's some backwards. And then V3 and V4 are DDR4, and that's socket 2011-3, and they're really expensive. And DDR4 is ridiculously expensive, so we haven't done anything with those yet. But I don't see them going down in price anytime soon.
You mean you're not going to do a 8-core or an 8 processor build anytime soon?
I mean, if the R910 or whatever, or the R920 goes on sale, then sure we'll do quad proc, but I don't see it happening.
Hashtag me6, where you at? We need those donations.
Right.
And even within like the E5 series, the 26XX, it's kind of wonky with the numbering after that.
Right, yeah, the particular numbers. The best thing you can do is go to Intel Arc, and just, so if you do like E5 2600 V2 series, So it'll say Intel Xeon processor E5 V2 family. Click on that. And then I'll just give you a list, and then what you can do is you can click, if you want to sort by max turbo frequency, you can do that. Or number of cores, you can sort by number of cores.
Yeah, Intel Arc is a great resource that is hugely underappreciated.
Yeah. And then, I mean, if you want to compare processors, you can compare passmark scores too. But make sure you're either doing single or dual CPU if that's what you want to compare, because there's two different pages for single and dual on Passmark's site.
I did also notice for at least the E5 series, like if it's 2630, 2650, it's kind of a step up with the 0 at the end. But if you throw a different number in there, then the cores might go down, but it's a higher clock speed.
Yeah, some are high clock models, some are just flat out more cores, some are a lot of cores, very low clock. I mean, it's
all over the place.
And some are like really good value too. But some are really terrible value. So I think like E5 2637 V2s are really, really bad value. But they're like on eBay, they're really, really expensive. 2637 is what it is.
Can we add a little sidebar on Passmark and what it is and how much it matters?
Of course.
Or how little it matters once you get to a certain point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very content with my 15K Passmark. It allows me to do a lot of transcodes, and I've just never felt like I was running into an issue. And so a lot of people go for like, you know, if they look at the Threadrunner build, they go straight for dual 2680 V2s, which is what, 23 or 24K?
It's around there.
Yeah, it's low 20,000 Passmark, and I mean, they're great processors for sure, but they're just more expensive, and most people don't need that much.
Well, so you have about 15K, and just give these guys who don't know like a general idea for how many Plex users are running on that, how many is max that you've seen on that, and then how much stuff you also have running on that same server.
I have 7 virtual machines running, each with like between 4 and 8 gig of RAM. Many instances of sonar and radar, depending on the, like, I have one each for 4K and one for 1080. And then at the most I've had transcode wise is like 17. I think I did hit 19 at one point, but my Tatuli doesn't go that far back. So
that's, to be clear, that's 19 simultaneous transcodes.
Transcodes, right? not like simultaneous streams. So actual transcoding of media. And the way that transcoding works is that it's segmented, so it'll do a piece of work for that particular transcode, and then it'll pause the transcoder. So like, it's still running, but it's not continuous.
It changes to whatever needs it most.
Right. It's smart enough to split up the work to make sure everybody's coming along cleanly.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are worried about this, that's probably far more than any of you are ever going to do unless you start a TV station with Plex as the background.
Yeah, and even then, you probably wouldn't be transcoding anyway. But for the most part, you'll hit network bandwidth limits before you hit transcoding limits, especially on a system like that.
That was my next point, actually, exactly. You're going to run out of upload a lot faster.
Now, if you're going to do other things like gaming or live streaming or encoding, not transcoding, you might want to look more towards fewer cores and higher clock speed.
Something like 2667s, the E5 series.
Yeah, so those are 6-core, what are they, 3.5 Turbo Max?
Yep.
Yeah, so mine are only 2.5 Turbo Max, but they're dual 8 cores. So I noticed that mine's a little bit slower with Handbrake. I mean, it still works great, but I would definitely notice a speed boost with higher clock speed.
Slower in that, how many, like, give them a rough frames per second that your handbrake encodes?
Oh, I don't know. I don't use the handbrake a whole lot because
Fast.
well, that's the thing. It's like I have so much transcoding power. Why would I need to?
Yeah, you don't need to really.
Exactly.
I don't ever run into an issue where I'm like really chugging and I'm like, ah, I should just transcode everything to something or encode everything to something else.
Again, if you're running to the point where you're trying to rip all of the stuff out of Redbox to put it on your system, you're doing it wrong.
Well, I mean, you can.
You can, but really,
Yeah, it's. I mean, if that's what you want to do, it's what you want to do, and like,
more power to you.
sure. But
People get hung up a lot of times on the 2,000 pass mark per transcode standard.
It's really
or recommendation, but that's more for a
It's just-
standard desktop setup.
But
And
it's,
a
it's
lower
totally just a
end machine
guideline, though.
overall.
Yeah, it's a guideline, not a rule. Once you get into dual CPUs, especially the Xeons, it gets wonky.
That rule, that quote rule, is for people that they just want to look at something and they say, okay, this is what I need, and that's it. But if
Yes.
you're here and you're watching this video, you can just throw it out the window, basically, because you're already going to be using hardware that isn't even on the recommended server hardware list for Plex. They would never expect you to be running this kind of hardware, and therefore that rule doesn't really apply to us. So
No, they put the recommendation out there for the masses.
right, yeah, and your average person is not going to go out and buy used Xeons off of eBay. I mean, if that rule were true, I would need 30,000 pass mark to be able to do what my server does, and it's just I have half of that, and I'm not even near the top end. So
I would say that a lot of people should look at that when you're under, more like you're under 10K pass mark. It's much closer to a 2K
Yes, it is.
transcode. Once you pass 12 or 15, you need a lot more going on at the same time for that to really apply.
right, there is some sort of wonkiness that I've yet to figure out with Plex and the transcoding. Plex seems to, especially with dual CPU, Plex likes to use the first CPU almost in its entirety until it's about 90% CPU usage, and then it starts to bleed over and put transcodes on the other CPU. And I think it has to do with hyperthreading.
The affinity for it.
It's not. I don't know. I don't know that they have the affinity set right past like 4 or 6 cores. Because it doesn't happen on. So like it doesn't happen on dual processor systems that are like dual quads. I notice it happens on dual 8 cores, dual 10 cores.
Huh.
I don't know about 6.
My guess would be that on their recommended hardware list, it stops at 8 cores.
Right. So yeah, 8. Well, not even 8 cores. I mean,
8 threads.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So I noticed it doesn't happen with hyperthreading turned off. But then again, if you turn hyperthreading off, you lose quite a bit of pass mark score. So I don't know that it matters a whole lot because I've never noticed any performance issues, but it's just something I've noticed.
Ding. Next one.
Yep.
What upgrades or technologies coming in the next few years are you guys most excited for?
High density SSDs.
This.
Yes.
That and DDR4 or DDR5 or whatever coming back to a normal level of production and price per gig.
Well, yes, but I'm more excited for a new standard because DDR3 wasn't cheap until DDR4 came out. And then
Right.
once DDR4 kind of hit mainstream adoption, that's when DDR3, everyone's like, okay, well, we're upgrading to V3s and V4s, so our V1 and V2 stuff can go out the window. And
Well, wasn't there a problem? It was in Taiwan or something where they got a good chunk of their manufacturing wiped out, which is why it's been so slow to respond, even with them ramping up production.
I mean, yeah, but there's always that excuse. There's always something that's going on, and they're like, oh, well, it's because of this. Just like the hard drive thing was like, I think that was Taiwan too. But
Always Taiwan.
I just don't see
Always
it.
blue.
I just don't see it changing regardless until
No.
DDR5 comes out or whatever that is.
Right.
And people are still paying the prices for the DDR4, so why would it go down?
Right.
I would say too that that's going to be beneficial to us in that we like to use secondhand used gear or last generation type gear rather than cutting edge Ryzen builds.
And that's the same thing. Like, even when DDR5 comes out and it hits mainstream adoption, guess what? DDR3 is gonna be even cheaper. So like,
Yes.
it's still gonna be hard to recommend DDR4 because
And-
the difference between DDR2 and DDR3 is gigantic because real processors didn't really exist on DDR2. So it's really hard to, like, sure, DDR2 is pretty cheap, but there's no real computing power there. The difference in computing power between like what we're using on DDR3 and a DDR4 Xeon is not a whole lot different.
Not unless you're running an entire data center or something.
But even then, really, the difference
Yeah.
is like improvements, like features, more than just like power.
Right.
Like and maybe power saving is a little bit better. Power efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we might have a call-in question here.
Oh, God.
Who does?
Let's see. Titanial 6. He wants to know, where do I go?
Yeah. In terms of new technology, high-density SSDs at lower prices for sure.
Or even hybrid drives that would play well with RAID setups would be nice. If it would be really cool if you could have every hard drive has its own like mini cache or something.
Oh, yeah. Basically a hybrid drive, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that, and you can have arrays of hybrid drives, but I don't think that there's really any software that supports it, or the drives
Yeah.
themselves don't
Advantage of
really
it.
take advantage of it. So
No.
to
It's
have
better than a normal hard disk on a single disk drive, but when you rate them, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any advantage that works or that
So
it has.
I threw one in my PS4, a
Yeah,
hybrid drive.
I've got one in my
and-
PS3 too.
and got better game loading performance slightly. It's
Right.
not SSD, of course, but it's better than normal hard
Well, especially
disk.
for the PS3, it's only SATA 1. So like
Oh, really?
yeah. Yeah, it's only SATA 1, so it's 150 megabytes per second, which means that like
Max.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a hard drive can do that. So if you have just maybe a little bit of the the random reads and writes from the hybrid drive,
Yep.
it's good there. But to have an array of those would be freaking sweet, and if it actually worked like that, it would be awesome.
Yeah, if it could take advantage of each of the individual hybrid parts.
Yeah.
Cash for days. All right, do we want to take our caller?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Caller number 1.
You guys can drag him in.
No, he's caller number 9. It's always number 9.
Caller number 9. Titanial 6.
That's
Whatever. Are you in Hawaii by chance?
No,
Also, you're
that's
muted,
he's-
Mike, by the way.
dude. It's titanium. That's just a gigantic M.
All right, let's cut that. Titanium, you're caller number 9.
Actually, if he does come in here, I gotta be right. Well, I'll be like 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Gotta unmute his mic, but you know,
That's all right. Just chat amongst yourselves for a second. I'll let you know when I'm back.
one of us.
Always blue.
Come on, Titanium.
You can do it.
For those of you who like dual Xeons, it runs Golfit fantastically. I can't speak more highly of it. Also stalling for Titanium, who does not have his headset connected. You could also just type out your question if you have a question for us to discuss, by the way.
I just messaged him in general.
I'm back.
Welcome back. We talked amongst ourselves.
Okay. The wind's picked up outside. It's like 38 knot gusts. It's ridiculous. Oh, well, that's acceptable.
He was just an admiring fan, wanted to listen to us. Well, thank you, caller number 9. That was a very scintillating and probing question, and we just really enjoy your insight into this topic. Next question.
What software / stack would you like to use, plan to use, etc.? I plan on using what I'm using right now because it gives me the least amount of headaches and I don't have to interface with it daily unless I want to. So my advice there is find something that works, and once you find something that works, then play around. But I'm probably not going to change a whole lot, and I think I have a post somewhere on Reddit that just shows everything that I'm running.
If it works, don't try to fix what's not broken.
I mean, I think the majority of us use Plex and then some kind of automated downloading type stack, whether that's
Allegedly.
Sonar or allegedly for Linux ISOs.
Right.
Very allegedly.
I mean, who's not mirroring
Blu-ray
Linux ISOs?
Remux Linux ISOs.
Or
Exactly.
you do my alleged shenanigans.
Well,
2160p Ubuntu wallpapers.
yes. Yeah.
Besides
I
that,
guess
though,
like I think that you should have a quote production environment and a test environment. So if there's stuff you want to mess around with, great, mess around with it, learn as much as you can, and then
Spin up a VM for it.
yeah, once you get it working and you're like, okay, I can actually use this, then put it in production and
Now,
use it.
do you use Docker or any of those type of plug-in containerization?
Nah, I'm gonna say this
technology?
and people are gonna get pissed, but fuck Docker.
That's fine. That's a totally valid opinion.
I've had nothing but headaches with it, and like I get it, it's great. It's great for some people.
I mean, you're wrong, but no, I'm just joking.
It's just not for me. It seems too constrained.
So you use primarily VMs or just
Yeah.
straight physical servers?
So on mine, I use Plex on the actual host OS, and then in VMs, I run all the services that I want. Because I really want Plex to have access to the full, like to as close to bare metal access as possible. But yeah, I don't know. Docker's not my thing.
ManBear, what about you? Is yours similar? All VMs, all Docker, all running?
I've always been a Windows guy, so I use Windows VMs with Hyper-V. Yeah. I have an Unraid box that's just straight up media storage. That's just about all it does. I have a couple Dockers just to manage stuff on the Unraid server, but it's beyond that. That's all it does.
Linux VMs work great inside of Hyper-V too. So it's it's not like you have to only run Windows once you're in Hyper-V.
It only works from Windows 8.1 and above, right?
What?
No, that was the joke from somebody in software saying Hyper-V only lets you run Windows.
Oh, no, it definitely
know.
doesn't.
I think it's only included with 8.1 and above.
Yeah.
Hyper-V is.
Yeah. But you can, like, I'm running Windows 7 VMs. I don't even run anything higher than that.
Yeah. No, I I run counter to these other two fine gentlemen and run almost everything in Docker. But I mean, it's totally a personal choice. That's what I'm comfortable with,
Exactly.
I feel
and
like
I have no problems with it.
I feel like you might have more headaches because of that, though. Do you have an opinion on that?
I ran well. Let me put it this way: I've just switched over to Unraid, and so all of my Dockers moved into Unraid. But I ran everything using Docker Compose, which is almost like a scripting definitions for all your stuff. So it was very similar in that you set it and forget it, and it became something that was highly portable for me. I showed a couple of users, JWire and some of the others, on my own stream, just showed them how quickly you could set up something from bare metal. I spun up a VM and had it up and running in no time at all. Just once you're familiar with it, you can really rip out containers very quickly. And the thing I like about it is that it was portable. I could switch hosts from my little AMD APU 760 Passmark to my desktop and a Linux VM, and didn't affect anything. I would be down for 30 seconds just switching, you know.
Yeah,
I could take it down a service
is...
on one thing and take it up on another. As long as my config is accessible, it was up and running, no problem.
That is a nice benefit, because I know mine is not very portable at all. I mean, I could swap motherboards and get everything to boot eventually and get everything to work, 99% the way it was before without too much issue, but definitely not as easy as just
Right. Like my paths are the same across all my hosts, so my configs don't need changing. So the whole point of it is that I showed them where I could stop 10 different services, so Plex and other stuff. I wasn't running Plex on that, but Plex Pi before Tautuli and the others. I could take down all 10 hosts or all 10 services and bring it up on the other one in about 2 minutes flat, from shutdown on one machine to up and running fully on the other.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is like VM Lite. I mean, for those of you who use it or are interested in it, let me know. I'm happy to help work through it.
What are the main, major ones that you run in Docker?
Oh, goodness.
Just the majors, not everything. Plex, obviously.
Let's see here.
Probably
NetData, NZB-Git, Heimdall, DuckDNS. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Guacamole.
I want guacamole.
Yeah, just stuff like that.
Like the food.
Any kind of food sounds good. I
ran a Git server on it. I ran like an Etherpad instance, if you guys know what that is, similar to Google, like Google Docs, where it lets multiple people edit stuff at the same time.
Oh.
Yeah, I've done WordPress, kicked up a WordPress instance on it. I mean, I use Docker because it's something I can try out a lot of technologies very quickly and get it up and running without having to worry about the prereqs for it or having to worry about incompatibilities between different things, because each Docker instance is sandboxed from each other. Instead of having to run up a VM and make sure I get all the setup and stuff, I can take somebody's Docker image that's already up and set up and running, as long as it's well documented, and one command and it's running for me to test out. So it helped me choose what I'm going to use in my long-term stack, because I could try it and say, oh, look, sick rage, not for me, things like that.
Makes sense.
I don't have
Docker
a whole lot
shell.
to comment on Docker.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's not for everybody, but for me it was, when I was more constrained with the amount of resources I had, it was definitely a good way for me to make as much use as possible of what I did have.
For sure.
I still stand by if you want to play with stuff, get either a VM for playing with stuff or get a dedicated box for playing with stuff. Because
then you don't blow stuff up.
Well, I mean, even that, it's just constantly messing with something that you want to work all the time. It's just you whether you mess anything up or not, it's still kind of like, oh shit, what if I delete all my media? What if I cause a chain reaction and then it just
many
sometimes little
what-ifs.
sometimes little changes can lead to big problems. And I mean, you can pick up a really cheap dual Xeon system for like $100 or $150 on eBay. You can get a cheap dual Xeon Dell tower or Dell workstation and get some cheap hard drives, throw them in there. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do for a cheap test system. But I mean, like, even not even dual Xeon, you can do like an old Dell Optiplex and just try to run all the different software on it. You could try Unraid, you could try FreeNAS, you could try, whatever you want. But if it's your first server, do what you know.
That's key for sure. I mean, I come from a Linux hobbyist background, so I'm very comfortable with the command line. But I know not everybody comes from that place.
No,
Right.
myself included. I'm a Windows guy.
I find that I'm a lot more adventurous in trying stuff when I have spare hardware to try it on.
Yeah, when you can
'Cause
just
I have
throw up a
everything
VM
so
just
fine
to try
tuned.
something.
Yeah, I have everything so fine tuned the way I want it right now. And if you look back through my hardware, like the Plex Share Your hardware build, it hasn't changed a whole lot in like 2 years.
No,
I just don't want to change it because it works. And like the software updates and it works. And then I don't have to worry about it. But if I have like a test box laying around, and yeah, I'll play around with that because I don't have to worry about. I don't have that, like, I don't lay in bed at night and think, oh man, did I screw something up? Oh, is this gonna crash overnight or anything like that?
what did I do?
Yeah. So my advice is just buy a cheap something or other and mess around with it.
Hey guys, I got my headset plugged in.
Howdy.
You guys made me plug it in because you're having some interesting conversations.
Well, if you have any questions or you want to talk about something, ask away.
No?
Otherwise, we're gonna keep
I'll
moving.
throw in my setup. I'm running
You go for it.
ESXi because I'm an idiot.
Why?
Caller number 9, welcome to the stream. Oh,
What do
I
you
missed
mean?
my
What do you
cue.
mean you're What do you mean you're an idiot? What is that?
It's kind of not user friendly. It's meant for enterprise and stuff, but that's what I use at work. So like you guys said, do what you're comfortable with.
Right?
So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I haven't really considered. Emulating your work environment at home gives you free work experience.
Yep.
With because you're gonna mess with it anyway. Like when you're at home, you're gonna mess with it anyway. You're gonna figure stuff out. So when you run into a problem at work, you can be like, "Oh, I've done this before." I mean,
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going for.
it's not gonna always happen like that, but having the experience is nice.
And
I
ESX
fucked
does
this
offer
up.
a lot of options.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cool stuff about ESXi is that it is meant for enterprise, so it's very flexible to do anything.
Yeah.
You can, like you guys said, that you don't want to mess up your current setups. You could just clone all that stuff and toss it in some folder somewhere, break it, and then bring it back. And if you have backups and stuff set up, then it's not really an issue. You could break it on a daily basis and it'll keep running.
Yeah, I could do that with FreeNAS too, but it still feels like I'm playing on a production server.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I know it could work, and my backups and my configs and stuff, I can restore it and it'll be fine. But it's still like you're playing with fire. And I don't know.
That's what makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
Or very, very bad.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna skip a couple questions. We'll get to the interesting questions at the end. McCandrel asks, "How should I start my home networking /server? Should I buy a good switch for the network or get a server?" I think server first, supporting hardware second.
And I mean, what an 8-port Switch is like? What, $20, $30
Yeah,
on Amazon? Like
unmanaged
a
Switch is like
good
15
Switch,
bucks. Yeah, you don't
I
need
mean,
a managed Switch.
right? There's no point to that until you get way farther along.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have like
Yeah.
a fancy network, it's like great, but what are you gonna do with it? There's no server there. There's no there's no devices.
There's nothing to use it.
Right. I mean, you can run a server with a really crappy, just, Comcast router, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is that you're going to need a lot of stuff on your network before you're ever going to need any type of advanced switch.
Well, I think the bigger point is if you have a server and you want to do certain things, you're going to find out what your network requirements are pretty quickly. Whereas if you're trying to pre-plan your network requirements for the server that you don't have, it's not really possible. At least that's
You don't see the
my take on it.
capabilities until you're actually stretching them.
Yeah.
And
Well,
most
with the
people don't
server-
need managed switches, just unmanaged. They're cheap as hell.
Yeah.
With the server, you can do all that stuff in software as well. With the hypervisor, you can play with VLANs and do stuff between the
Right.
VMs.
I mean, you could virtualize a router.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
V switches and then
PFSense.
PFSense and OpenSense.
I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of the super micro boards have 4 NIC ports, so
Mhm.
I mean, you can
I got one.
you can do whatever you want on those. But yeah,
Was it a JDM special?
That's the one he made me buy.
yeah, it's the same board I have essentially.
At gunpoint. He made you do it.
Allegedly. He made me do it.
I'm gonna skip the Die Hard question.
Nakanomi Plaza.
What is the scrunch or fold question?
No idea.
Zenbender, you are being summoned.
What is it a reference to?
Either summoned or shamed. Or both.
Time to Google this. Toilet paper. Do you scrunch or do you fold?
Oh, now I get it.
Oh, fuck scrunching.
Bidet.
I bid bidet to you, sir.
Also, today's video is sponsored by Dollar Shave Club and their one Wipe Charlies. Just kidding. They're
Today's
actually-
video is sponsored by Tunnel Bear.
But actually, Dollar Shave Club is awesome. Not sponsored.
Also not sponsored by Tunnel Bears
Yes, also not.
or Man Bears.
Did you print out a Man Bear
what was
picture
it?
in every package?
Yes.
Okay.
That was hilarious.
I didn't.
I had to.
If we had done video, I was actually going to open with that on the camera.
God.
I had to do something.
All right, next question. Now that we got the scruncher full out of the way.
Case fans, size and placement / noise. SP versus variable. I don't know what's SP.
Static pressure versus
Oh,
fans.
Oh, the ordinance chimes in.
Jesus, he's still here. Does any of it matter? Rack mounting versus case. Rack mounting. My views on rack mounting. For the longest time, I wanted a rack mount setup, and I didn't have one. And then I got one, and then I realized it was a lot more expensive than I thought it would be, even doing it on the cheap. So you can get a used rack off of Craigslist or whatever. For not usually like $100, you can get a decent rack. But there's a lot of considerations, especially with noise, that are just not really easily solvable. Especially with like super micro chassis, you have to get quieter power supplies, which is the main thing. The default fans are 80 by 38 millimeter, or 35 or 38 millimeter. They're pretty thick fans,
And I'm pretty sure they could take a baby with them.
yeah, like if the server wasn't so damn heavy, it would be scooting itself across the floor because of just the amount of air that those things move, and they're loud. They're really, really loud. Now, if you're gonna put it in the garage or in a shed or out of the living space, it's not a huge deal. But even through my garage, I could hear it in the house. So quietening them is pretty important. What I did
And will
was
cost some more money.
yeah, which is just in turn costs more money. So I used Arctic 80 millimeter PWM fans and replaced them. So even though they're thinner fans, they're 25 millimeter fans. I had to do a little bit of modifications of the fan brackets with the Dremel. But it works, and they move enough air. So yeah, that's what I'm using there. Static pressure, that usually only matters with water cooling radiators. Not a whole lot with servers. I could see using static pressure fans for like the main fan wall just to get more airflow because the drives are going to be blocking a lot, especially in a rack mount chassis. But I don't use static pressure fans, and I think they're I don't think they're like super necessary.
One thing I wanted to say on that, generally those thick fans that come in the servers are static pressure.
Right. Yeah, they're thick because they're
right. But
Yeah.
generally, you in like a data center, that's where you want those static pressures. That's where it makes a big difference because you've got a lot of hardware and it really needs to force in air. They know it's hot, so they just want to force in that as much air as possible.
right. They want as much airflow and they want to get the hot air out as quickly as possible.
Right.
And there's no reason for them to consider noise.
Exactly.
It's
In a home environment, airflow fans are generally fine unless you are just running some ridiculous rack mount setup.
yeah. Most people walk around data centers with EarPro because they're so loud with like full racks and multiple racks.
Yeah, they're like what 84U racks usually.
Well, yeah, 4U chassis, but like 42U rack, you know.
Yeah.
42 is normal.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember the number. It was 82, 42, whatever.
So, you know, that said, most people walk around with hearing protection because it's just the way it is. But if you're trying to adapt it for home use, just consider that you're going to have to change fans. You'll probably have to change power supplies because the power supplies, they have those tiny little 40 millimeter fans on them. And to move any sort of air, you have to either need a really efficient power supply so it doesn't produce a lot of waste heat, or you need a really powerful fan. So the cheap ones have really, really powerful fans.
And they squeal.
Yeah. As far as desktop cases, a lot of people like Noctua fans for obvious reasons. They're great fans. They're very reliable. They're very expensive. But Arctic fans are pretty good too. I still use Arctics in most of my stuff because you can get a 5-pack of 120s for
$25, I think.
Something like that. That's what I bought them for.
20 on sale, I think. It's the lowest I've seen them.
Yeah.
Arctic just makes good stuff.
I think there's a sale on Cooler Masters right now on Newegg for like a pack of 4 for like $8. So those are super quiet as well.
Yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say about case fans.
On placement on those, it really depends on your setup as well. Linus and Jace 2 Cents have some really good videos where they tested a bunch of different setups, and they can recommend some really good, basically different configurations on fans.
Yeah, for servers, I don't think CPU cooling, or obviously graphics card, if you don't have one, it's not going to be as big of a deal. I would be more worried about drive cooling. Just getting some kind of airflow over the drives.
Yeah, for sure.
And like forced airflow, not passive airflow. So if you have 8 drives in the front, definitely see if you can put 2 120s in front. It doesn't need to be a whole lot, but just something, because if they sit there kind of stale, that's when you get into dead drives, and just taking care of your drives is a good thing. I mean, I've had
What do
this...
you?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, how many fans would you recommend for 20 drives?
What, what, what are you using?
I'm joking. I am just force feeding. I have the rack mount case, the 846 TQ from
Yeah.
the latest build, and I'm trying to see if I'm gonna build a second fan wall to go in front of the bays because the drives are sitting usually between 40 and 45.
That's totally fine. I have my alarm set at 50.
Yeah.
I use 80mm Arctics in my 4U DAS, which is essentially the same thing as a 846. So I don't know. If anything, I would remove the fan wall and see if you can do 120s all the way across. But I wouldn't strap anything to the front. It's too janky for me, man.
Duct tape.
But I think actually strapping things to the front might give you some dead spots, especially considering behind the motors. Because if you think about it this way, if you have the fan wall still in the middle of the case and then you have fans in the front, if those fans in the front are supplying enough air to equalize the pressure with the ones in the middle, then you'll probably have dead spots. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So I might actually be more worried about that in that situation. There's a reason that most servers, well, there's two reasons that most servers use negative airflow for the drives. And one is so that it can be easily accessed with, like hot swappable bays. But the other one is that you get even airflow.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. I'm just thinking about would it be a good idea to block off where I have blanks only, stuff like that.
I have a bunch of super micro blanks I can send you if you want.
Well, I have just the sleds for it. I just don't have anything blocking that airflow through those spots.
We
So
have
I
the
wonder
sleds,
if
like
that's...
the trays for it,
Yeah,
like the tan trays, or the actual, they're the black ones.
the black ones with the lever.
Yeah, I have the tan trays to go in those. If you want me to send them to you,
Yes, please.
I have a bunch. I have like 30 extra.
I'll take them.
Yeah, so if you're in that example, say you have a 24 bay, and you only have 12 drives. You put them all on the left, so you have a stack of 6 and a stack of 6. On the other side, you have 6 and 6 bays that are just totally empty. Well, your negative air pressure, your negative airflow, or negative air pressure is going to pull most of the air from the right side because there's no blockage there. So your drives will get even less airflow than they would normally if you filled those with blanks. And I know you know that, but I'm just explaining.
Right. Basically, the air is going to take that path of least resistance, and it's going to go right through those spots with no drives. So your drives are not going to get any type of cooling.
Yeah. And on my DAS, I actually took out... So my DAS is 24 bays in the front, 21 in the back. And I took the blanks out of the back because I didn't want that resistance there. I wanted it to just go through because I'm not actually using the back right now. And if I was, then I would put them in. But I'm only using the front, so I would prefer to have the extra airflow. Let's see.
Fanstravaganza 2018. Check.
Why should I build outside the case? Because these aren't regular consumer desktops. That's why. And
We said so.
The biggest thing with that is just making sure to test your hardware when you're using used hardware, and also to
let's think
not
about it
worry
from a
about
logical...
standoffs.
Let's think about it from a logical perspective. Your parts, when you get them out of the box, where are they? they're outside of the case. So why would you do more work and put it inside and then have it not work and then have to rip it out again? You might as well assemble everything that you can outside, which means the motherboard, CPU, maybe CPUs, the RAM, and then throw a power supply on your desk, plug it in, plug all the cables from the power supply into the board, and just try to turn it on, see if it works. If it works, great. Unplug it, throw it in the case, and then you're good to go. But if you skip that step and it doesn't work, then you have to take it out anyway. So, like, why even bother? But yeah,
Very true.
like Faultline said, it's usually a standoff, a stray standoff in the case, because the cases are set up for commercial setups and or like consumer setups. So there's usually just a rogue standoff in there that causes a short, causes it to either not turn on, not see a CPU, not see a DIMM, something like that.
Would it be fair to say that probably 95 out of the last 100 builds that have had problems with boards not booting have usually been a rogue standoff when they're built inside the case?
It happens a lot. It happens a lot.
But they've built computers before.
Yeah.
Yeah. When people come in and are working with this, the one of the things that's going to make us roll our eyes really hard is just saying, "Oh, I built a computer." You're right. You have built a computer. You just built a computer. That's why you're here. But not this type of hardware, not this type of environment.
We're not saying that to be elitist. That's the thing. It's like we're not trying to be elitist, and we don't intend to be. It's just we've
have seen it
been
enough
around.
time.
Yeah, we've been around the block, and it's like, okay, so with the advent of electric cars and electrified cars, do you think that automotive technicians, okay, yeah, they can do the brakes, they can do the wheels, they can do things like that, but do they really know how to work on them? No, they go either back to school to be certified, or like, for example, our local Ford dealer can't service our C-Max because it's a hybrid. They're not trained to service it. So why would we take it there? We don't. We take it to a different Ford dealer because they have hybrid certified technicians. It's kind of the same thing with this. These are computer parts, sure. And there's a lot of translation between the skills, but there's a lot of differences too. So,
this is like a level 2. You've done level 1, you've done consumer gear, but how much enterprise gear have you really worked with?
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of resources online for doing this kind of stuff, which is not to
why we're here.
Yeah, it's kind of why we're here, to help people with this, because you can look up YouTube videos all day on how to build a gaming PC. There's all kinds of channels to do that, but how many channels are there to build a home server? A handful, maybe. And out of those, how many do I trust? Like 1 or 2? Yeah. So that's the long story as to why to build outside of the case.
I think the best reason to build outside the case is just to eliminate any other variables. Why are you going to keep piling stuff on top that could go wrong? I mean, if I could just levitate the motherboard in the air and test it, then that's the best scenario.
Right. And
You mean you're not building in 0G?
No.
We're not in the expanse? Fuck.
this is kind of a novel reason, but like, this is something that's really cool and not a lot of people get to do. Wouldn't you want to like work with it hands-on on a table and kind of experience it and learn about it instead of just shoving it in a case, closing the door, and forgetting about it?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you get to take way better pictures outside of the case of all your stuff.
And that's another thing we're going to ask you to
Server
do while
barn.
troubleshooting. We're going to say, show us pictures, and then you're going to be like, oh, I can't because it's dark and inside the case. So like, well, take the bitch out.
Take it
then.
out.
Yep. All right, I'm going to move on. Why should I test CPU memory one at a time? I don't think that you should unless it's not working. I just throw both CPUs in, throw in all the RAM, and assume that it works. And if it doesn't, then you do the, okay, let's narrow it
One
down.
by one.
Yeah, what's not working. So that's kind of all I have to say about that. What inspired you to start the community? Did you ever expect it to grow so large? No, I can't believe that we have almost 2,000 members.
Yeah, what's the current count right now? Bot, tell us.
1,815. 1,815. 404 online on a Friday night. It's nuts. No,
I remember when we hit 100 too.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to say about the whole thing. It's my favorite thing to do all day is just interact with people. We've grown so much. We have ridiculous amount of Discord channels just for all the different things that we do. I kind of like that we're turning into kind of a gaming community on the side. It's fun
Yeah,
to
for
not
sure.
not do server things and talk about server stuff all the time. Yeah, I don't know.
Come join us for PUBG or Golf It or
Or
what
not
else?
not Halo. Not Halo. We definitely
Yeah.
don't play illicit Halo.
not Dash Halo.
Allegedly,
Um,
the alleged Halo.
but yeah, it's kind of weird because we're all pretty like-minded, and not to say that we all toot each other's horns or jerk each other off all the time, but we do get along. I haven't really met a whole lot of people I don't get along with.
If so, I missed out on that party.
Right. I think over the whole length of time of the server, which has been, 10 months now? Almost a year.
Probably close to a year now.
Well, I know the subreddit was only like 9 or 10 months. But there's only been I've only banned 6 people from the Discord.
They were a-holes.
Well, yeah, they're either spamming or just being particularly obtuse, but yeah. Never scrunch the TP, always fold. Yeah, I totally agree.
I'm glad we covered that again.
No, he just said it in chat.
I know that. I'm just
Okay.
saying callback.
I don't know what inspired me to start it. Was there was nothing else. I mean, if there's something you like doing and something that you think you can provide, I was doing the guides, and then we outgrew just the Reddit posts because there were so many freaking people asking me in the Reddit posts for advice. I'm like, well, maybe we should start a chat so people can talk and people can answer questions when I'm not around. And then
I think there was definitely a gap. I mean, we exist in that gap between consumer and enterprise.
yeah, I think the home lab, the Reddit home lab community is great and they're awesome dudes, but there's almost an elitism or kind of a
stigma.
gatekeeping to that, and it can be intimidating a lot to ask questions and get complicated answers or.
And I'd also say that there's a tendency towards rack mount everything in that lab.
Right.
Yeah, they have a stigma.
Yeah, they have a very oh, this is the right way to do things, and I mean maybe we have that too, but
All Dell are whatevers.
R710s.
And they are cheap. I mean, they are great. But
Pretty
again,
sure they have an
you have to
R710
be able to-
emoji. Let's see.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Well, they do.
So, I mean, that just kind of tells you all you need to know. It's but yeah, it's intimidating and oh, you don't have
I am not cool enough to have nitro. But Clyde the bot was ever so kind and said, "Don't forget, you could get nitro and have this."
Thanks, Clyde.
Thanks, Clyde.
I actually came over from the home lab guys, and what I can say about them is that they just have a different end goal than we do here.
Yeah,
So
I
they're
don't
looking
think they're
at
wrong.
Yeah, they are actual system administrators working for like multi-billion-dollar companies with just hallways filled with racks. So that's what they know. So that's what they're going to recommend.
Yep.
And they are like not setting up Plex and stuff. They are like, making Google work and Amazon and stuff. So
Big
it's
virtualization
just
environment.
different.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a lot of crossover between us and them, but I see us as being more of a realistic stepping stone into that style of community.
We're an intermediate step between that.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
not we're not consumer and we're not professional. We're like prosumer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna save the more info about me and ManBear for next one.
We're gonna make a documentary.
Yeah. Behind the servers.
Welcome to MTV Real Servers with your hosts JDM and ManBearPig.
I'm 16 and hosted. Let's see what else. Favorite Pokemon. Fucking Farfetch'd. Best Pokemon. Gonna hit you with an onion. Or a leek.
Was that even in the original Pokemon?
Hell yeah. He had no evolutions or anything.
Googling to confirm.
Farfetch. I'm pretty sure he's the only Pokemon with an apostrophe.
He
too.
was not in the original.
Yes, he was.
Let's see.
If his number is
Google.
yeah, he's number 83. He's in the original 150.
Confirm.
Look,
I'm
a lot of
looking right now.
a lot of the Pokemon are really cool, but Farfetch'd he's dope.
ManBear, what's your favorite Pokemon?
I don't even remember their names.
You remember Farfetch'd?
No, I don't.
Uh-huh.
He's a normal flying. Did you find him yet? I think he's also the only Pokemon that hasn't gotten tainted by the future generations. He's not had like a egg Pokemon that's come out. He's not had any weird evolution. Like I don't know.
You're
He's,
right,
he's
Gen
the
1.
only. I don't. He's not
He
the
exists
only,
in
but
Gen 1.
he's one of the few.
So no babies.
Yeah, he's dope. I say he, but I guess there's a 50-50 gender distribution.
Oh, I know that picture.
Yeah. He's got a leak. He beats people with it.
Jesus Christ.
I might change my profile
R
picture.
slash Pokemon is leaking into our Discord. Wow. Boo, hiss, nothing?
Nope. Nothing.
Not going to give me the satisfaction on that one. It's fine.
Hell no.
Nope.
Anybody else got any questions?
I don't want to
think
scroll. I don't want to
that's-
scroll too far on this. Oh, yep. I've gone too far already in the Google image search.
Oh God.
Anime was a mistake. Oh,
What the-
I've gone. I scrolled about 3 lines and then that was it.
Yep, you went too far.
Hope we get some safe search on, or you're gonna start getting some Rule 34 there.
Yeah. Anyone else have input on that? Not that picture on favorite Pokemon. I'm deleting this picture off the internet. Doesn't exist.
Oh, DeviantArt, you never fail to enrage. ManBear, you don't remember any Pokemon at all.
Charizard.
I knew you were
There
going
you
to say
go.
that. God.
Ord?
Oh man, I haven't played Pokemon in forever.
Yeah, I was like 8. That was like 20 years ago.
Oh, come on.
Titanium, you can also contribute.
I don't know. Probably Charizard as a starter.
Okay, Charizard is not a starter. Charmander is the starter.
Whatever.
Exactly.
Close enough.
Come on.
He started with the what is it? The cheat code things.
You guys.
What was that?
You guys need to play.
Add on that you
Oh, I don't know. The Emerald Randomizer is the best thing ever invented. If you guys have ever played Game Boy Advance emulators, there's a program out there for Pokemon Emerald called the Emerald Randomizer, and it randomizes all of the Pokemon that you encounter and the starting Pokemon. So you can either get really fucked or you can get like something really awesome. But it's fun, and then you can play it like 800% speed, so you can just run around and you can finish pretty much the whole Pokemon game in like a couple hours. But yeah, it's pretty fun doing that. Any questions we didn't answer? I'm gonna save. I gotta run, so I'm gonna end this little recording. We're almost at an hour and a half anyway.
Oh, Jesus.
But we might try to do. I don't know, maybe bi-weekly kind of episodes, and maybe see if I can release it on like a podcast or something. Just the audio would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Because I know Jaywire was asking me about it, but if we can do an hour and a half just talking and it's three people, like, I don't see why not.
Yeah, just bullshitting back and forth, answering questions.
Yeah.
it'd be fine with me.
Any final comments?
Fuck Ryzen.
Holy shit.
Wow. Wow.
That was perfect.
All right, and on that note, I'll see you guys later.